let's bring in the Boston Herald's Rich Weir, who has some viewer questions. We've been asking viewers to share some of their questions, and you have one of them. Rich, welcome. Thank you for being here.
On the education front, a PTA mom writes in complaining that in East Boston, we have only one middle school and have no other choice. Another Herald reader writes, people are still moving out of the city because they don't want to send their children to Boston public schools. What would you do to change this and improve our schools? Mr. Yoon, can you address this?
This is a crucial question, and you know where we have to start? We have to actually start by believing that we can achieve this goal. And here's the goal, that in every neighborhood of the city of Boston, that there can be a quality school in that neighborhood that has enough seats for every parent in that neighborhood to be able to send their child to and absolutely trust that school and get involved in that school. We actually have to believe that that's possible. And I think a lot of the debate and a lot of the political positioning turns on whether or not that you could really do that. I really regret, and you know, the energy and the time that we wasted last year or this past year on the debate around 5 zones versus 3 zones. Don't want to get into all of that, but this was a tremendous waste of our kind of city's energy when we're debating whether or not to have fewer choices for schools in neighborhoods, or and save a little bit money on busing, or whether or not we keep 3 zones. I mean, we have to begin by saying that this is possible. And you know, in a city like Boston, called the Athens of America, if we can't figure this problem out for 56,000 public school students in our city, then we have no hope for the world. It can be done, and that's what leadership is going to have to mobilize, you know, based on that premise.
Mr. Flaherty?
Thank you, Maria. As a lifelong resident of the city and as a father with 3 young children in the Boston Public Schools, nothing bothers me more than hearing a story about another young family leaving our city in search of a quality education. It's why I led the effort in this race to lift the charter cap, to embrace the success stories that exist here in our city, whether it's Boston Collegiate, Pacific Rim, just to name a couple of them that have great success stories. Boston Collegiate graduating 100% of their students over the last 5 years, 80% of those students first-generation college bound. But it's not just about that, it's also about providing quality opportunity. A lot of families in Boston don't get their top choice of a school, and worse, many are unassigned. That clearly has to stop, to give folks again, they're the consumer. We should be embracing you know, their commitment to the Boston Public Schools, providing quality first and foremost, but also making sure that that quality exists throughout the city. We have too many underperforming schools, many of them chronically underperforming schools. It's time for new leadership.
School's always an issue, Mr. McCray.
It's my #1 issue. Sam and Michael both talked about leadership. Douglas MacArthur said, "Lead from the front." I will be leading from the front on this issue. I've made 2 key promises. #1, I will not cut the education budget the way it has been this year. #2, and this is the same promise I made 4 years ago when I was running for city council, I will visit each and every school in the school system over a period of 2 years. And I'm going to meet with the parents and the teachers and the students. I'm going to find out what's going right. We're going to highlight and reward what's going right, and we're going to find out what's going wrong. We're going to find out why it is that that parent in East Boston doesn't want to send their kid to that middle school. I asked these 3 politicians, will you spend 1 day a week on the schools, as I've promised to do? We spend 40% of our city budget on the schools. To me, it's not too much to ask them to spend 1 day a week, 20% of their time on this. These are 3 smart gentlemen. If they get elected mayor, I want them working in the schools. When I'm elected, I will be in the schools.
Will you spend 1 day a week, Mr. Mayor?
Kevin, I've spent the last several days at the schools. I've visited 5 schools.
You're not answering the question.
It's
a yes/no question.
I think the Boston Public Schools are making progress. We have some underperforming schools in Boston. That's why I proposed in-district charters. So in-district charters simply means you put a charter into a school that's there presently and raise that school to a school of choice. I don't want to create more schools in Boston. I want to get those schools. I was with teachers. I was with parents today. The parents were enthusiastic about schools. We got to get them involved. But you know, the issue about people moving out, Boston's population has increased over the last 10 years. It hasn't gone down. People are moving back into the city. They want to live here. I just want to say also that we have a good school system. Carol Johnson's doing a good job. Don't forget, Boston Public Schools takes every kid. We don't discriminate against anybody. Every kid who has to be a learner, we take it. And the dropout rate during my administration has dropped 30%, 33% to be exact.
Let me interrupt you quickly, Mr.
Sure.
Flaherty.
Mayor, over the last 16 years, 24,000 kids have dropped out of Boston Public Schools.
Michael,
Let me finish that. And also, you know, with respect to the commercial with the desks, I think of that desk as 24,000 empty desks out there. Kids that don't have a future, kids that are no longer employable, or in some instances incarcerated, or even now raising children that are going to the Boston Public Schools themselves.
You know, Maria, Mr. Mayor, all due respect, you have a lot of things that you can be proud of in your 16 years as mayor. But what you're hearing from us, and I think what you're hearing, what we're hearing as we go out campaigning, is a sense of urgency. It's a sense of urgency. It's a sense not that we can rest on our laurels, but that we have work to do. 40% of ninth graders today aren't going to graduate with their class. 15% of Boston Public School students are lucky enough to get into a college right here, graduate with their class. The other 85% don't. There is a problem, Mr. Mayor, and you know, I want to ask. I think this comes down to just the fact that we have a system that allows a single person to just, you know, to win re-election after re-election, to control all the power and the information and resources, and that's a system that has to change.
Let's let the mayor respond to that.
We have a superintendent of schools, Carla Johnson, who just was given the award, the best black superintendent in America. She's doing a good job. Some of the programs you talk about, Sam, the re-emergence of kids, and we have a program for kids who dropped out and want to go back into our schools. We have Credit Up, which is a program that helps kids who didn't get enough points to go to summer school and get the points to graduate. Success Boston, another program we have in our city, which helps kids through college. Usually, we're the first city in the country to do that. Usually mayors just take it to the high school level. We're taking it to the college level because we saw a problem out there. And we'll continue to invest in our children because it's about the kids in our neighborhoods. And we have kids from every neighborhood, every language, every color. They're all there. They want to come to our schools. That's why this year we had 10% more parents choose the Boston Public Schools than last year.
We've lost 7,000 students in the last 10 years. That's not choosing to go to schools. That's choosing to leave the schools.
We have school sports that basically are an embarrassment and have been underfunded for the last 16 years. School sports, Maria, as you know, not only does it keep kids in school, keeps kids off drugs, keeps kids out of gangs, and keeps kids motivated to be successful in the classroom.
Mr. Mayor, there are 3 people running against you this year. This is the toughest election that you've ever faced in your career. I think you would admit that. Well,
the first time.
Not the first time.
I had 8 opponents.
That's 16 years ago. But right now, there's a reason why there are 3 challengers in this race, Mr. Mayor. It's because we have heard that it's time for change, that we can't rest on the programs and achievements that you cite, and you're very good at citing. That's all well and good. But we can't move forward into the 21st century operating the way we did because we have so much potential in our city to solve these problems, and we're not unlocking that potential. Mr. Mayor, if I want to ask this, you know, I've called for term limits. I've called for term limits, and that's fine, Kevin. But I want to ask you, you know, to join me in calling for term limits on the office of mayor, so that we can have, you know, new ideas in government on a regular basis.
Will you do that, Mayor?
Would you do that?
I haven't got a piece of legislation before me. Also, term limits for city councilors, not just mayors.
So you're saying yes for term limits for mayors?
I have term limits every 4 years. I face the voters of Boston. They may determine if I'm going to be mayor of Boston for the next 4 years. The other ones I rely on, the people in the neighborhoods. You know, I ask them every year, every 4 years, do I deserve re-election?
If you get re-elected, Mayor, would you pledge to serve the next 4 years?
I'm going to serve the next 4 years.
You'll make that pledge right now if you get re-elected?
Next 4 years, that's right. I'm not going to.
You're not going
running for U.S. Senate. I'm not running for governor. I'm not running. I want to be mayor of Boston.
Are you asking whether that'll be his last term?
He's talked about running for a 6th and a 7th term already.
I think it's the Herald that broke that story.
All right,
Maria, notice that no one's answered the question about whether they'll spend 1 day a week in the schools. Michael Flaherty talked about the problem with the sports programs, the expose in one of the Boston papers. This is the problem with politicians. They say, oh, we had no idea this was going on. If they had gone into every school in the last 2 years and had met with the parents and the teachers, they would have said, we don't have uniforms for our kids. We don't have proper sports programs. What this report comes out and they say, wow, we need to look into this. Hands-on involvement is what Boston's going to get with me as mayor.
Kevin, we're Boston Public School parents and grandparents, and that just needs to be said. So there's other ways in which we
performance review.
All right, let's move on, gentlemen. Okay, Mayor,